Hello, everyone. This is going to be a hopefully quick video of how I introduced my 10 rats, 2 neutered males to a group of 8 females. I am using the carrier method, which is when you put your rats into a smaller cage that they have not been in. Some people tend to use a carrier, one that you would take to the vet. But I decided to use the small hamster. Well, it says hamster. Obviously, it's not a hamster cage. Do not think that this is a hamster cage because it is not. So yeah, I put them in this mainly because there are 10 rats, 2 big boys, obviously. So I didn't feel comfortable putting them into something smaller like a carrier, hence why they are in this cage. So with the carrier method, what you do is you put them in a small environment. The reason why it's a small environment is because you want to make sure that these rats do not fight. And if they do fight, it's to stop them from pulling away as much. They can't rip each other apart as much because there's less pulling away. They can't run away as much, which will stop the rats from wanting to fight. Because the reason why they tend to fight is because they want to work out their hierarchy. They will not be able to work that out if your rats are running away, which will just cause even more fights. So that is the reason why this happens. People use a small carrier, then they would move up to this sort of cage that the rats are already in, and then they would then move on to a bigger cage, like a medium-sized rat cage, and then eventually move them into the original the original big cage, which is, where you will eventually have everybody in. So people tend to wait quite a while when they're doing the introductions. I didn't. What I did was I had them in this cage for about 5 hours. I waited until they settled down, which will come up very soon, hopefully. So yeah, this is me coming back in to check on them. They are still quite rowdy. There isn't much I can really do apart from just scatter feed their food, and they do have some water bottles in there. I think I did put another water bottle in, but yeah, I eventually did think about putting a hammock in. That's why the hammock is at the side of the cage. And yes, there is a water bottle at the side. You will see some sort of jumpy movements. That is mainly just the girls getting scared, or one of them just getting a little bit frightened at the other's presence. Buffy is very skittish right now. She does not like having any of the rats near her. She just wants to hide somewhere, but obviously I didn't give them any hides because you need to have an open cage. It's mainly to stop them from getting stuck into a corner, and if they're stuck in a corner, there's more likelihood to them fighting. So that's why Buffy does not have a hide in it. I did feel very sorry for her at the time, but a hammock was the only thing I would put in. I would not put in something like a Sputnik or just a hide that they could just get themselves enclosed into. So that is the reason why it's an open cage. Now, the rats do calm down. I know it looks like they are all just going crazy, but in reality, they are calm. It's just what happens is that when I come into the room, they do then wake up and they just think I'm going to let them out. Like, this is the end of the torture, but no, in reality, it is not. So they will have to just, deal with me being there. And this is the cage that people would usually start off with. It is just a normal carrier that you would take to the vet. So you would take all your rats, put it in there, and just leave them until, you see a rat pile of just sleepy heads, which I did not do. Now, as you can see, some of them are still calm in this. They're close to the boys. Obviously it looks like they're avoiding the boys, but again, that isn't avoidance. That is them trying to get out. That is them waiting for me to open the cage door for them, which sadly for them, I refuse to do. I just watch them pine away while they're just waiting for me. Now, it is important that during this process you do give them some food, something to distract them from what they're doing. So I do put in some food for them. Obviously I put in their normal blocks, their normal mealworms, stuff like that. Poor Buffy, she just wanted to come out. But yeah, the boys really couldn't care less about the girls. They just have a wash in the background. Ragnar does look a bit interested in coming out, but always find, yeah, you can see Amy is very tense. I'm already having problems with her. It's been a day and a half, and I'm now having to reintroduce her to Ragnar and Rollo again because she did bite Ragnar whilst they were in the big cage. Which, I'm not surprised at. She's very tense in these videos, so I will show that process as well. They will be in that small carrier, just so, heads up. But yeah, during this process, just leave them to it. Unless they're fighting, and I mean fighting, the sort of fight that Ragnar and Rollo got neutered for, leave them to it. Unless it is that bad, you just leave them. And obviously, if they are fighting that bad, then you've got to get a towel and put your hand in. Don't just put your hand in as it is, because chances are you will get beat up. Now, I did attempt to put a hide in. As you can see, this is a multiple hole hide because it's from the Sputnik. And I thought I'd put it in just to help Buffy calm down a bit because she really was not calming down. But as you can see, it just kind of turned into a plague of rats just trying to get under it. So I did eventually remove it. And they've also got a one hammock in, which I thought would help, get them all cuddled up together because they didn't like sleeping on the actual substrate. And then I eventually moved it to 2 hammocks. I took the hide out and put an extra hammock in. Now this did work pretty well, but I did find that the girls weren't letting the boys sleep with them, or the girls were all onto one hammock and the boys were on another hammock with maybe 1 or 2 girls sleeping with them. But majority of the girls didn't sleep with them, which is a problem. You do want to have all the rats sleeping together. I know that, I didn't care too much about it. As I say, everyone's in the big cage and they weren't sleeping together. But you want them to accept each other. You don't want the avoidance. You don't want any fighting. You don't want squeaking. You just want everyone to accept that the other is there, which is eventually what will happen. It may take longer for others, but so far I think this group of rats that I have are actually, the introductions for them have gone pretty well, considering that I introduced Luna, Willow, Nala and Mina to Peppa, Amy, Michiru and Buffy back when they were younger. I introduced them. I just did it all on the first day. So obviously I do find that, this mischief is quite easy to introduce. But obviously you do get the odd one out, which I did. As I say, Amy is proving difficult. But you just have to take it as it goes. Now this is where you can see that everyone is calming down. Buffy is avoiding the boys. She is just facing away. And I think that is Michiru next to her. So yeah, the rest of the girls are calm. Yes, they're in the hammocks. The boys aren't with them, which is what I found to be a problem. And obviously, some of the rats were still avoiding the boys, which you don't want. In hindsight, I probably would use the carrier, regardless of if it's a lot of rats. 10 rats in a small carrier, it does seem a bit ridiculous. But the outcome is you want them to be calm around each other. Right now you can see Rollo is in the background. And some of the girls are fine. Nala was fine, Luna's fine. Peppa squeaks here. She doesn't like, being groomed by Rollo. But obviously, Peppa didn't have a choice. You have to let them groom each other. If you hear squeaking, don't intervene over a small squeak because you will just take it a step back. So you just leave them, again, unless they are fighting. The rest of the girls are still avoiding. Michiru is avoiding. Buffy wants to hide somewhere, that's why she's underneath Michiru. And yeah, Pepper doesn't like having Rollo next to her. Now, this is them finally in the ferret cage. As you can see, I didn't take anything out that was there for the boys. I did take out the bathhouse and I tried to put in this little hide, and I had an open back to it, that's why I used it. But I did eventually take it out, mainly because the girls were going underneath it, and I didn't really want them to be underneath the hide. Now, the boys were more excited here because it was their home. Especially Ragnar. Ragnar was trying to rule the place. he kept going after everyone, but he wasn't fighting. He was just pinning, making sure that he was dominant. And I found that Rollo was actually being pinned more by the girls than what Ragnar was, mainly because he is the dominant male. Now here is the next morning. Everybody is quite happy. I've given them some treats. They're having some sausage. And yeah, no one's really avoiding anybody. I woke up to find that Ragnar and Rollo were in a hammock. That is where Nala is in at the moment. And I have Sputniks next to it. Rollo once more. But yeah, I didn't find anybody was avoiding anyone, really. Everybody was facing each other. Yes, they were in separate hammocks, but they were all on the same level. No one was really hiding anywhere, which is very promising in my eyes. I don't know about anybody else, but I think that, like I say, so long as they are in the same area as each other and they are not fighting or squeaking or avoiding, then I think it's okay to move to a next step, which is what I eventually did. After this, I then decided to move them into their big cage. Now this is them in the ferret still, and as you can see, there is Rollo. He's actually bruxing, which isn't, it can be a sign of either thing. It can either be a sign of, contentment, or it can be a sign of a little bit of anger. But because of the way he was and his stance, I would say that he was quite happy. So it was a happy brux. And as you can see, everyone is still near each other. Buffy, she doesn't squeak when the boys are near her. She just doesn't want to be in an open space. And there comes my Rollo. Big boys using small ropes, just it's funny to look at. And as you can see, the rats don't seem fazed by having a male next to them, which is promising stuff. They all think that I'm gonna let them out, but they've got to wait a little bit longer. I think I was mainly waiting because of Amy and Willow. Willow has been a bit of a problem rat with Ragnar. As you can see, Ragnar's looking at her. Although he's eating, he's still got his eyes on her. Now here is their big cage. This is before I added more hides in. And also the reason why the resolution is as it is because I posted this to Instagram. But yeah, as you can see, everybody is sleeping separately. And there's Amy, who eventually will be taken out. And yes, I did put a bathhouse in, but I did take it out in the end because Ragnar was showing some signs of aggression. So whenever you're introducing rats, obviously do it whatever way you want. This is the way I was most comfortable with, and for the most part, it has worked greatly for me. Of course, I'm still reintroducing Amy and Ragnar and Rollo, mainly because of Amy's aggression towards them. She's still not sure of them, but it will eventually work out. I'm going to be putting another video up of that, showing them in the carrier and the process I'll go through with them. But I think what I will be doing is just having them in the small carrier, and then once I see them all huddled together, I will put them in the big cage. Because I just want them to accept that the other one exists. I don't want them to love each other. I don't ask that much of the rats. I didn't ask that of the rats back when I introduced the girls to each other. And I will not do it now that I'm introducing males. I just want them to have a cohesive group. So hopefully that's what will happen. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it helps you. Goodbye.